messages. Tell everyone it's been a pleasure working with them. The doors closed on his stunned face. As the elevator descended, my phone rang. Leo's name flashed on the screen. I took a deep breath and answered. Leo. Astrid, where are you? We're all waiting in the lobby. Ready to make history today? There's been a change of plans, I said, keeping my voice steady. I'm no longer with the company. Silence on the line. Then, what are you talking about? I've been terminated, effective immediately. Terminated? On signing day? That's ridiculous. This is some kind of negotiation tactic. The elevator doors opened to the lobby. I could see Leo standing with his team of advisors, phone to his ear, free hand gesticulating in confusion. Behind him, I noticed Peyton had also arrived in the lobby, likely coming down the stairs to be present for the greeting. No tactic, Leo, just the reality. I suggest you speak with the company's representatives about how they wish to proceed. I walked out of the elevator, box in hand. Leo spotted me immediately, and his expression shifted from confusion to alarm. He ended the call and strode toward me. There she is. He wrapped me in a hug, as if refusing to believe what I'd just told him. Ready to sign the merger? I took a steady breath, aware that Peyton was watching us. Afraid not. She just fired me. Deal's off. His expression hardened as he turned to Peyton, who had followed me down. You did what? The look on Peyton's face shifted from smug satisfaction to confusion as Leo's words registered. Behind him, the entire Orion investment team stared at her in disbelief. I was just enforcing company policy, she stammered, clutching the handbook like a shield. Her skirt violates our dress code by 3 inches. Leo's expression darkened. You fired the lead negotiator of a $4 billion merger because of 3 inches of fabric? Gregory appeared then, rushing from the elevator with several board members trailing behind. Leo, I'm sure we can sort this out. Astrid is valuable to us, and this is clearly a misunderstanding. But Leo had already turned away from them, speaking quietly to his team. I caught fragments of their conversation, respect for their own people, and if this is how they treat their best talent. I stood silently, watching 3 years of my work dissolve in real time. Gregory approached me, lowering his voice. Astrid, please, let's discuss this privately. Peyton is new. She was overzealous. We can fix this. There's nothing to fix, I replied, loud enough for everyone to hear. Your daughter made a decision. You supported it by your silence. I accept it. Leo turned back to us. Our agreement was with Astrid. She structured this entire deal. She understood what both companies needed. Without her, he shook his head. I'm sorry, but we're not comfortable proceeding. You can't just walk away, Gregory protested. The contracts are ready. The press release is scheduled. Actually, we can, Leo said. Page 17, Section 4 of your own agreement includes a key person clause. Astrid is specifically named. If she leaves the company before closing for any reason other than illness or death, we have the right to withdraw without penalty. I had insisted on that clause to protect the merger if anything happened to me. Now it was the very thing that would sink the company. Astrid wrote that clause, one of our lawyers whispered to Gregory. She's the only one who caught its significance during review. Leo extended his hand to me. Astrid, when you decide what's next for you, call me. Talent like yours is rare. And with that, he and his team walked out, leaving stunned silence behind them. I nodded once to my former colleagues, then walked out too, ignoring Gregory's calls for me to come back. Outside, the spring air felt different somehow, lighter, despite the weight of what had just happened. I had no job, no immediate prospects, and had just watched my greatest professional achievement crumble. Yet beneath the shock, I felt something unexpected, relief. My phone buzzed continuously as I walked to the parking garage. I turned it off without checking the messages. Whatever crisis was unfolding back at the company, it wasn't mine to solve anymore. At home, I poured myself a glass of wine, then sat on my balcony, watching the sunset paint the sky in colors I hadn't noticed in years. When was the last time I'd actually been home before dark? When had I last looked at the sky? That evening, news alerts popped up on my tablet. Our company's stock had plunged 28% on rumors the merger had collapsed. By morning, it would fall another 12%. Thousands of jobs hung in the balance. The company I had worked so hard to save was now in free fall. Part of me felt guilty. Those were good people who would suffer. but a stronger part recognized that I hadn't failed them. Their leadership had. For the next week, I ignored calls and messages. Colleagues, journalists, recruiters, everyone wanted to know what had happened and what I planned to do next. I wasn't ready to answer. Instead, I slept. I cooked actual meals instead of eating takeout at my desk. I reconnected with friends I'd barely seen in 3 years. "I've never seen you this relaxed," my sister Erin said during a video call. "Being fired might be the best thing that ever happened to you." "Maybe," I admitted, "but I still can't believe how it ended. 3 years of my life, Erin. 3 years of sacrificing everything to save that company." "And what did they sacrifice for you?" she asked. "Nothing. You gave them everything. And the first time this Peyton person flexed her power, they let her destroy you." She wasn't wrong. 2 weeks later, Gregory finally caught me on my phone. I almost declined the call, but curiosity won out. "Astrid," he sounded exhausted. "We need to talk." "I'm listening," I said. "The board wants to meet with you. The situation here is—" He paused. "It's worse than we anticipated. We need your help." "To do what, exactly?" "To fix this. To bring Leo back to the table. To save the company. The same company that fired me for my skirt length." His sigh was heavy with regret. "That was a terrible mistake. Peyton has been removed from her position. I've been reprimanded." I said nothing. "Please, Astrid. Thousands of jobs are at stake. People who worked alongside you, who respect you. People who sat silently while I was humiliated," I thought. But I kept that to myself. "What's your offer?" I asked instead. "Come to the board meeting tomorrow. Name your terms." I considered hanging up, but something inside me, the part that had spent 3 years trying to save this company, couldn't quite let go. "I'll think about it," I said, ending the call. That night, I couldn't sleep. What did I actually want? Reinstatement? A public apology? Revenge? Yes, a voice inside me whispered. All of that. By morning, I had my answer. I called Gregory back. "I'll meet with the board. Today, not tomorrow. And I'll come with conditions." 4 hours later, I walked into the boardroom wearing the exact same outfit I'd been fired in. The message wasn't subtle, but then, subtlety hadn't worked for me before. The board members rose when I entered. Their expressions ranged from desperate hope to embarrassed discomfort. Gregory looked like he hadn't slept in days. Peyton was notably absent. "Thank you for coming, Astrid," the chairman said. "We appreciate your willingness to discuss the situation." "Let's skip the pleasantries," I replied, taking a seat. "In the 2 weeks since I left, your stock has fallen 62%. 3 major clients have announced they're reviewing their contracts. The business press is running daily speculation about when you'll file for bankruptcy." Grim nods around the table. "You've lost the Orion merger, which was your last real chance at survival. Even if I could convince Leo to reconsider, and that's a significant if, the terms would be much worse now." "We understand that," Gregory said, "but we have to try something." "Why should I help you?" I asked. "You sat silent while your daughter fired me on a whim. None of you." I looked around the table, meeting each eye, spoke up for me or the work I'd done. Uncomfortable shifting in seats. "We made a terrible mistake," the chairman admitted. "What would it take for you to return?" I opened my bag and withdrew a folder. "These terms are non-negotiable." I placed it before him, watching as he flipped it open. Inside was a 3-page document my attorney had drafted overnight. The chairman's eyebrows rose as he read. He passed it to Gregory, whose face paled slightly. "This is extensive," Gregory said. "Yes, it includes full reinstatement at triple my previous salary, a seat on the board, complete autonomy over strategy, and a substantial equity stake in the company. Also, a public statement acknowledging the error in my termination." "And this clause about new ventures?" the chairman asked. "Any new business initiative I develop while employed here remains 60% my personal property. The company may claim 40% ownership, but I retain controlling interest." "That's highly unusual," one board member objected. "So is firing your chief strategy officer over a skirt on the day of a $4 billion merger signing," I replied evenly. "Consider it insurance against future misunderstandings." They looked at each other, a silent conversation passing between them. Finally, the chairman spoke. "And if we agree to these terms, you'll try to bring Orion back?" "I'll try. I can't promise success." Another exchange of glances. Then the chairman pushed the contract back to me, now bearing his signature. Done. One by one, the other board members signed. Gregory was last, his pen hovering briefly before he added his name. When can you start? The chairman asked. I already have, I said, standing up. I'll be in my office making calls. I suggest you all prepare for a very difficult few months. As I turned to leave, Gregory called after me. What about Peyton? I paused at the door. What about her? She's still with the company, in a junior role in the research department. Will that be a problem? I smiled thinly. Not for me. That night, I called Leo. The conversation was long and difficult. As I'd predicted, he was reluctant to re-engage. Your company showed its true colors, he said. Why would I trust them again? You wouldn't be trusting them, I replied. You'd be trusting me, and I now have the authority to guarantee what I promise. After 2 hours, he agreed to consider a revised proposal, with significantly less favorable terms for my company. It wasn't ideal, but it was something. Over the next few weeks, I worked relentlessly to stabilize what could be saved. Many departments had to be restructured. Some people lost their jobs, none of whom had been in that conference room when I was fired. I saw Peyton occasionally in the hallways. She always looked away quickly. I never approached her or mentioned her name in meetings. Her presence or absence meant nothing to me, or so I told myself. But an idea had begun forming in my mind from the very first day of my return. That unusual clause in my contract, the one giving me majority ownership of new ventures, hadn't been random. I had a plan, one that would take time and patience. It began with a conversation with Amina, our head of product development. I need a side project, I told her over lunch one day. Something small, experimental. Can your team help? Amina, delighted that I'd singled her out, agreed immediately. What kind of project? I've been thinking about professional clothing, specifically women's workwear. She looked surprised. That's not exactly our industry. No, I agreed, but it's an area ripe for innovation, and my contract allows for exploration of new verticals. Within days, Amina had assembled a small team. We worked evenings and weekends, conducting research, developing prototypes, testing materials. I was particularly interested in skirt designs. Comfortable, professional skirts with adjustable hemlines. Skirts that could transition from conservative to modern with a few clever design elements. Why not just make them all regulation length to begin with? One team member asked. Because different workplaces have different cultures, I explained. And women shouldn't have to buy entirely new wardrobes when they change jobs or when arbitrary rules change. The team embraced the challenge with enthusiasm. They saw it as a creative outlet from their regular work, a fun diversion with a charismatic leader. Meanwhile, I continued rebuilding relationships with key clients and slowly, painfully, reconstructing a viable merger plan with Orion. The company remained in danger, but the immediate threat of bankruptcy receded. Gregory watched my work with a mixture of gratitude and wariness. He knew I'd saved his job, for now, but also sensed that I wasn't quite the same person who had left that day with a box of belongings. You've changed, he said one evening as we reviewed quarterly projections. Have I? You're harder somehow, more distant. I smiled. Experiences shape us, Gregory. Being fired in front of 21 silent colleagues tends to adjust one's perspective. He winced. I've apologized for that. Yes, you have, several times, and I've accepted your apology. But acceptance isn't forgetting. As weeks turned to months, our clothing project progressed from concept to reality. We partnered with a small manufacturing facility to produce a limited run of prototypes, paid for through my personal funds, with company resources properly compensated as outlined in my contract. The designs were elegant, functional, and subtly revolutionary. Each piece incorporated our signature feature, adaptability to different workplace standards without sacrificing comfort or style. I began wearing our prototypes to work. Simple pieces at first, blouses with convertible necklines, jackets with detachable elements. No one commented, but I noticed people watching. Then came the skirts, beautifully tailored, impeccably professional, and secretly adjustable. One day at regulation length, the next perhaps an inch shorter, the following day back to standard. Women in the office began asking where I shopped. Instead of answering directly, I invited them to focus groups, collecting their feedback on workplace clothing challenges. The rules are so arbitrary, one senior analyst complained. My last job, skirts above the knee were fine. Here, we need these exact measurements. It's infantilizing. Others nodded in agreement. What if, I suggested, you had pieces that could adapt to different environments, professional, but flexible? Their enthusiasm confirmed what I already suspected. We had identified a genuine market gap. 6 months after my return, our small clothing line, which I had named Adaptations, was ready for a limited launch. We had a modest website, a manufacturing partner eager for orders, and a growing list of interested customers. The day before our official launch, I called a company-wide meeting. Everyone attended, curious about the unusual summons. As I walked to the front of the room, I noted with satisfaction that Peyton was present, sitting in the back row, trying to blend into the wall. Thank you all for coming, I began. Today marks an important milestone for our company. We've weathered a difficult period, stabilized our core business, and are finally ready to announce something new. Gregory, sitting in the front row, looked confused. This wasn't on his agenda. For the past 6 months, a small team has been working on a special project, one that represents not just a new product line, but a new direction for our company's future. I clicked to display the first slide, our clothing line's logo, simple and elegant. I'm proud to introduce Adaptations, professional clothing designed to adapt to changing workplace environments and standards. Murmurs swept through the room as I clicked to the next slide, showing models wearing our designs. These aren't just clothes, I continued. They're solutions. Every piece in this collection addresses a specific challenge professional women face daily. I walked toward the center of the stage, smoothing my own skirt, one of our signature designs. Take this skirt I'm wearing. At first glance, it looks like a standard pencil skirt, but it features an ingenious hidden adjustment system. With a few discrete moves, it can lengthen or shorten by up to 4 inches while maintaining its professional appearance. I demonstrated the adjustment, showing how the skirt could transform while still looking perfectly tailored. No more buying multiple skirts for different workplace cultures. No more worrying about arbitrary rule changes. Gregory shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Several board members exchanged glances. In the back, Peyton stared with wide eyes, recognition dawning on her face. You might be wondering why a financial analytics company is launching a clothing line. I smiled. The answer is simple. We identified a market need and created an innovative solution, exactly what we do with our core business. I advanced to the next slide, showing projected revenue figures that made several executives sit up straighter. Our market research indicates significant demand for adaptive professional clothing. We've secured manufacturing partnerships, built a distribution channel, and created a marketing strategy that capitalizes on authentic storytelling. I paused, meeting Peyton's eyes across the room. Every Adaptations piece will include a tag explaining its inspiration. The story of how a single arbitrary judgment, a hemline measurement, nearly destroyed a century-old company and derailed a $4 billion merger. The room went completely silent. No one looked at Peyton, but everyone knew who I was talking about. That incident revealed something important. When professional capability is subordinated to superficial judgments, everyone loses. Adaptations offers a practical solution to that problem. I clicked to the final slide, showing our launch date, tomorrow. Thanks to my employment contract, which grants me controlling interest in any new ventures I develop, Adaptations will operate as a separate entity, with 40% ownership by this company. All resources used in development have been properly compensated, and all financial arrangements are documented meticulously. Gregory stood up. Astrid, this is the first I'm hearing about launching tomorrow. The board should discuss timing, and the board approved my contract, which gives me autonomy over this venture. I interrupted smoothly. The timing isn't negotiable, but I welcome your support. I turned back to the audience. This isn't just about clothes. It's about recognizing that true professionalism comes from competence, dedication, and integrity, not from adherence to arbitrary rules created to control rather than empower. With that, I thanked everyone and ended the meeting, ignoring the buzz of conversation that erupted. As people filed out, I noticed Peyton remained seated, staring at the now blank screen. I walked past her without acknowledgement, My point had been made. The launch exceeded all projections. Press coverage focused on the innovative designs, but also highlighted the origin story. Fired over 3 inches. How one executive turned humiliation into innovation, read one headline. Orders flowed in immediately, overwhelming our initial inventory plans. Professional women across industries responded to both the practical designs and the message behind them. 2 weeks after launch, our main website crashed from traffic when Leo, the investor from Orion, gave an interview mentioning adaptations. "I wear their ties now," he told the reporter. "Best designed accessories I've owned, and I appreciate supporting a company that values substance over appearance." The interview went viral. Orders doubled, then tripled. Gregory called me to his office the day after the interview published. "This is bigger than we anticipated," he said, gesturing to the sales reports before him. "Yes," I agreed. "The board is concerned about focus. They worry. Adaptations is distracting you from our core business. Our core business is stabilized. The new merger terms are progressing. My work here remains exemplary." He sighed. "That's not the real concern, is it?" I waited. "The story behind adaptations. It's making us look bad, making Peyton look bad. The story is factual. It's damaging. Sometimes truth is," I replied. He leaned forward. "What do you want, Astrid? To humiliate my daughter forever? To remind everyone constantly of our mistake?" I considered the question carefully. "What I want," I said finally, "is for actions to have consequences, real ones. When Peyton fired me, she did so believing there would be no meaningful consequence for her. You sat silent believing the same. The board did nothing because they assumed the hierarchies of power would protect everyone except me." I stood up. "Adaptations isn't about humiliation. It's about transformation. Taking something destructive and creating value from it. That's a lesson worth teaching." I left him considering my words. 3 months after launch, adaptations had become a phenomenon. We expanded into men's clothing, accessories, and workplace essentials. Each piece maintained our core philosophy of adaptation and flexibility, and each carried our story. Our financial results were undeniable. Adaptations generated more revenue in its first quarter than our company's core business. The 40% ownership stake had become the company's most valuable asset. Meanwhile, the renegotiated merger with Orion finally closed, at terms far less favorable than the original deal, but sufficient to ensure survival. Leo made his support conditional on my continued leadership, a point he made clear to everyone. On the 1-year anniversary of my firing and return, I called another company meeting. The atmosphere was entirely different this time. Excitement rather than confusion. I took the stage wearing our newest design, a dress with subtle, brilliant engineering that could transition from conservative to fashion-forward with a few adjustable elements. 1 year ago, I was fired from this company for a hemline. I began. Today, I want to talk about growth, not just in revenue, but in understanding. I gestured toward the sales charts displaying Adaptation's remarkable trajectory. Our clothing line began as a response to arbitrary judgment. It has become something more, a movement celebrating substance over superficiality. Gregory watched from the front row, expression unreadable. Today, I'm announcing 2 things. First, Adaptations will become an independent company effective next month. This company will retain its 40% ownership stake, providing substantial ongoing revenue without management responsibility. Applause broke out. The financial benefits were obvious to everyone. Second, I continued when the room quieted. I've created a foundation, funded by Adaptation's profits. The Professional Development Initiative will provide grants and mentorship to women facing workplace discrimination. Its first program will be named after this company, acknowledging that sometimes our greatest lessons come from our most painful experiences. I paused, finding Peyton in the audience. She no longer hid in the back, but sat in the middle rows, diminished but present. I've been asked many times if Adaptations was created for revenge. The answer is more complicated than yes or no. It was created because someone tried to reduce my professional worth to a clothing measurement, and I refused to accept that evaluation. I walked to the edge of the stage. The foundation will include a unique opportunity, a fellowship program for individuals who've made significant professional mistakes and demonstrated genuine growth afterward. The first fellowship is currently open for applications. Peyton's eyes widened slightly. Mistakes can define us, or they can transform us. The choice belongs to each of us. After the meeting, Peyton approached me for the first time since that day a year ago. The fellowship program, she said quietly. Is it real? Everything I do is real, I replied. She nodded, swallowing visibly. And would I be eligible? I studied her. The entitlement that had radiated from her a year ago had dimmed considerably. 12 months in a junior role, watching the consequences of her actions unfold publicly, had changed something fundamental. The application process is rigorous, I said. It requires a comprehensive self-assessment and growth plan. No special treatment. I understand, she said. I need to do something different, be someone different. I handed her my card. The details are on the foundation website. Applications close in 2 weeks. 2 months later, the separation of adaptations became official. I remained involved with the original company as a board member and strategic advisor, but my primary focus shifted to building the clothing line and foundation. Peyton did apply for the fellowship. Her application was neither the strongest nor the weakest. The selection committee, which I deliberately removed myself from, ultimately awarded her an alternate position. Not a full fellowship, but an acknowledgement of potential growth. When she received the news, she sent me a single message. Thank you for the opportunity to be more than my worst moment. I didn't reply, but I kept the message. The original company never fully recovered its former market position, but it stabilized as a smaller, more focused entity. Gregory eventually stepped down, acknowledging that new leadership was needed. As for me, adaptations grew beyond anything I had initially imagined. What began as a response to humiliation evolved into an enterprise that empowered thousands of women to navigate workplace challenges without compromising their dignity or style. The revenge, if you could call it that, wasn't in Peyton's diminishment or the company's struggle. It was in my transformation of a moment meant to shame me into a movement that lifted others. The consequence wasn't just that Peyton lost status or that the company's value decreased. It was that everyone involved, including me, had to confront the real meaning of professional worth and personal integrity. Sometimes, the most powerful response to someone who tries to make you smaller is to grow so large they can't help but stand in your shadow. And that shadow, I discovered, could either darken or enlighten, depending on how you cast it. If you've made it this far, thank you for staying with my story. I'd love to know what resonated most with you. Was it the moment of being fired, the return with new terms, or the creation of something meaningful from that experience? Your comments help me understand what matters to you, and I read every single one. If this story touched you in any way, please hit that like button and subscribe so we can stay connected. There are more stories to share, and I'd be honored to have you along for the journey.
あ、そう、なるほど。今の同棲者とは